Hi, thank you. Hello. Thank you for having me. Can I have the clicker? Sorry.
Sorry, Michael, I got it right here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the introduction. So, virtual production on set, we're going to talk a bit about preparation and build, kind of what these systems are. I'll give you a quick intro, first of all, to what is virtual production. I know you've just watched that history, but if there's anyone here that's still uncertain about actually what virtual production is, I'll give you a quick rundown. We're then going to talk about achieving final pixel and what we do as a company, and then a typical setup that we would use in our virtual production shoots. So introduction, if I go back, sorry. We are a global production house specializing in end-to-end virtual production from concept to final pixel. So our company operates across the world in doing virtual production shoots. We were actually involved in the Absen forum in LA back in May earlier this year. That's my business partner and brother, Chris, who's our creative director, presenting on the Absen stage in Los Angeles. So literally about a month after that, we'd done our first shoot on Absen panels, and we were using the 2.5 for that project. Important thing about us and how we come at this is that we are filmmakers first. We come from production background. We look at things as how do we achieve the highest production value for the combination of technology and budget and time that we have. So when it comes to virtual production, we tailor the technology to suit the creative. Here's a quick reel. Oh, maybe not. Okay, there's no video there. Is it possible to run the video?
Not working there.
No. Okay, no problem. We'll move on. What is virtual production? So it's a combination of three things, three main technologies that we've talked about. Camera tracking. So you have the dots on the ceiling here represent, the tracking markers for the MOSIS that we have in here. You have a video game engine, and you have an LED wall. Put these three things together, you create something that looks like this. You'll see more of actually this frustum in real life, I'm sure, when we do the demo. It creates parallax. So you have something here where we're taking the coordinate data from the camera into the game engine, into a virtual camera, and projecting what that camera is seeing onto the LED wall. So what you get is this ability to look round corners, if you like. So it is a real advance from digital matte paintings or any other kind of backplate technology. And this is what we've been super excited about. The whole creating this parallax creates a 3D environment that you can place your actors in. Parallax Effect, I'm sure you've heard of this before. It's this effect where, if you're on a train and objects are going past you, you're going past objects that are really close to the train, they'll go past really quickly. In the mid-ground, things will go a bit slower. And then in the far distance, things barely move. It's this way that objects move at different speeds that kind of tricks the brain into believing you're in a 3D environment. They use it to good effect on The Mandalorian, as we've seen, and a big part of that is the foreground sets. We build foreground sets. We do this sort of thing where you're tying together a virtual world with a physical world. And the more parallax you get, the more realistic these scenes look. This is a piece we done for Dancing with the Stars last year in the US. Again, trying to bridge together the gap of the physical and the virtual. Let's just play in a little bit. There you go. Here's an example with this real play.
Just remember where we're going, and remember where we've been, and the world will dance around us. They wanna know what we've got.
So we love doing the 3D backgrounds, the full Unreal Engine stuff, because this is what's really exciting about this. You create the full parallax, you create a world which is believable for your actors to stand in. Sure, virtual production is awesome, also really good for backplates and car shots and these things where you're essentially using like a 2D image on the LED wall or 2D video. But what we're super excited about, and we've built a whole virtual art department to do this, is create 3D environments from scratch exactly to match the design and the vision of the creatives involved. So that's how we help get to the point where we can achieve final pixel. And if does anyone know what final pixel is? Has heard the term final pixel? Someone? Anyone? Nobody's ever heard the term final pixel? So final pixel is essentially coming away from set with what the final pixels that go into the edit and ultimately are delivered in the finished piece. So the idea being here that there's not any post to do, there's very minimal post to do from what you take out of the virtual production shoot. That's our workflow. So starting to get into a bit more detail as to what the kind of systems are involved here. And the creative development production design section that comes first is super important. And there was a really interesting article just this morning actually about in the Hollywood Reporter about virtual production stages and how the sort of the challenges that virtual production stages are having. And the conclusion of that article is very much what we've been trying to say to people for the last couple of years, which is the creative development, the production design, the previs, all this stuff that comes before virtual production and getting on the stage is super important. It's probably the most important thing to come away from today thinking about, I think, is that a lot of people start with a stage or the technology, but ultimately that technology has to meet the creative. We're producing films, we're creating things which have to have high production value. So that's what we do. And so we work through different versions of content that goes on that wall, and there's just a few examples. Increasingly, we're a global company. So we've recently partnered with Hogarth, who are part of the WPP group, which is a large advertising group, one of the largest in the world. And that's expanded our footprint in terms of our locations. So show that we've just done, and again, this is about starting with the creative, starting with the concept, working that through, and then tailoring the technology and the systems to.
What does it take to climb to new heights? To face into danger? To comfort what's most precious? What does it take? It takes an Aussie wool grower to make the best wool in the world.
So the reason the client came to this, and the reason virtual production was used here was it was a problem-solving tool. So thinking about virtual production as a problem-solving tool is where we start with a lot of our discussions with clients. And don't just do it for the sake of doing virtual production. Do it because you want to do a one-day shoot that involves setting something on fire and also filming in an apartment with a baby. I don't think there's any other way you could have done those two things without the use of virtual production. So a typical setup, here's a systems diagram. That's always nice to show a systems diagram. For those of you who want to get deep on it, but this is how we're going to segue into the next part of the conversation, which is hearing from the manufacturers and the people that work with these systems and make such excellent technology that allows us to do these shoots reliably for large-scale film, TV, and advertising jobs. So you've got the LED, behind the LED is the processing. So you've got their LED processors, which on the wall today, I know that they're using Brompton, and somebody from Brompton is here. I'm going to talk a bit more about the processing side. We would then have the image on the wall driven by PCs, so media servers. These come in all different shapes and form these days. There's zero density, there's Disguise, we use Disguise a lot. There's your own media servers. It's essentially a PC with a high-end graphics card in it. This sort of cluster of render nodes is what drives the image on the wall. You then have, going back, typical other bits of tech, a Genlock signal generator, something to keep everything in sync. Switch and networking. I mean, networking is time and time again a really important thing on stage, and sounds a bit boring and you wouldn't expect it, but actually networking and understanding that side of things is really key for the team that work on stages like this, particularly as well when you're doing bespoke setups, which we do quite a lot. And then you might have some PCs which are being used by what people call the brain bar, or there's various different terminology for it these days, but that's where the artist might be sitting doing work on the content or other support work. So they're all the bits. And then the final thing here, and I think you'll hear from Moses shortly, we'll talk more about tracking, as you have a camera tracker. That's the tracker there. Moses sits on top of the camera and provides that stream of XYZ coordinate data to go into the game engine. That's a typical setup. It's very, I would argue, commodity. Like we've set up stages like this in New York, LA, London, with similar larger size walls. We go into a sound stage, we put that up. It's very modular in that sense. You're bringing together existing technologies, existing third-party technologies to put together a VP studio. The real magic happens when you have the talent and the people and the knowledge and the workflow to actually make it all happen. So that's my piece. So I think now I will hand over to Tom again.
I'll stand over.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
Thanks.
Michael, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Cheers, Tom.
Wonderful.
Deeper collaboration. These are themes I've picked up there, Michael. Deeper collaboration, bigger control, bigger ambition. These are all things that we're going to hear a lot more about today. And that's the system, Michael. Thank you for sharing that. But we're going to move on now to... Sorry, that was the system. We're going to move on now to the processing. So from Moses, we've got Mike Grieve with us. Mike, you there? I want to welcome Mike, everyone.